Hi guys, and welcome to my 68th video. Thank you so much for joining me if you are a return subscriber, or hello if you are new. My name's Adrina. I'm an Australian teacher and mum, currently on a break at the moment, trying to figure out this whole teacherpreneur online space, selling my teaching resources, and Clipart on Teachers Pay Teachers and online. This video is a little bit different because I am going to break down, as a Clipartist, an introduction to Procreate for beginning Clipartists. If you are wanting to know a little bit more about the program Procreate on the iPad and kind of all the basic functions you need to know and learn about, then this video is one to watch. This video will get you started and give you some tips and tricks on the things that you might need to know as a Clipartist, or if you are looking at becoming one or looking at creating art on Procreate. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into this Procreate class, and I hope that you learned something new. Let's get started. Oh, and just quickly, my little dog wanted to say hello. Alright, let's get started. Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to Procreate for beginning Clipartists. So this video has been designed for those of you who are wanting to start out their Clipart journey, or are just wanting to know exactly how to wrap your head around using this program. This program is such an amazing one. I love it truly. It does cost a fee, but it is a one-off fee and it is well worth the purchase. So I'm going to assume that you've already purchased Procreate and you were just waiting to be able to figure out how to learn the basics of it and how to get started. So before I begin, my name's Adrina and I currently create my clip art on Procreate. I'm a clip artist and I sell my clip art on platforms such as Teachers Pay Teachers and Creative Fabrica at this point in time. So I do have a few little sets that I have created all through this program, and I do earn money every month from selling my clip art. It has taken a little journey to get there, but when I first started, I could not find very much information on how to do this, or how to be a clip artist and how to create clip art. So I really want to give back and just help others out there learn this program to be able to do this for themselves also. So before we get started, just for reference, I'm going to let you know that the iPad that I'm using here in this video is the 12.9 inch Generation 5 edition. I have the Generation 2 Apple Pencil alongside that, and the Procreate version that I'm using is version 5.3.1. And if you didn't know, Procreate is actually a program designed and developed in Hobart, Tasmania, Australia, which is where I'm from. So let's get started. Just press this little X up here. Now, to begin with, you'll see a screen that looks a little bit different to mine. You'll see the black background, which comes standard to Procreate, but you will find that you will have other images already pre-existing in here that just come standard when you first open up Procreate. Now you'll be able to see that yours is going to look different, like I said, because these are little clip art images of teddy bears that I've been working on for a Valentine's Day clip art set just recently for my Teachers Pay Teachers store. So to begin with, in order to open or edit any of the artworks, all you have to do is click on the image and it will open up into this editable working space. And to be able to go back to the home gallery screen, all you need to do is in the top left hand corner click on gallery and it will bring you back. Now because I have things I've already been working on, you won't have this same screen. You'll have to open up a new canvas. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment, but before that I want to just quickly go over these 4 things here. So in the top right you have select, import and photo. So the first word we have in the top right hand corner is select. So what that allows you to do is basically select the images that you want, and for this I'm going to select all these little bears that I have here in this set and stack them. So you can also duplicate, so you can make copies of them. After selecting, if you look up the top here, you'll see stack, preview, share, duplicate or delete. So it can allow you to do any of those things. Stacking basically just means you've squished them all together and you're going to put them in one little file, which I'll show you now. So you can see how they stacked, and if I go X, you'll be able to find them in this little stack. So now they're all together just like that. If I go back, you'll see that there is one that I left out, this little black and white version. So I can just easily grab him and just place him over there and bring him into the stack too. So that's just something handy to know if you've forgotten something in a stack, that you can just go and use your finger and drag and drop them into the other stack to combine them all. The next word next to select is import, which basically allows you to import a document into Procreate to be able to utilize in your workspace. The next word here is photo, which basically just allows you to import a photo from your iPad if you're wanting to use that within your artwork. And this little addition sign allows you to add a new canvas, which is what we're going to do here. So in order to create your very first canvas, all you need to do is click on the addition sign up here, and you'll be brought to this little drop down menu which says new canvas. So in this, you'll have a few different presets that will come with Procreate, such as square, 4K, A4, 4x6, photo, paper and comic. Now these last four that I have done here are ones that I have customized and have created for myself. So we're going to start off with a custom size canvas, just so you know how to create your own size canvas. Now working with Clipart, my personal preference is to use a Clipart canvas that is 3000 times 3000 pixels. So if we just go here to this little black box next to new canvas, you'll be brought to this screen which allows you to change the width, the height and the DPI as well. So what we're going to do for this one, very simple, just type in 3000 for the width and making sure that we're on pixels here, and then 3000 for the height, and you'll see that the DPI also is at 300 and we want to keep that at 300. If you haven't got that at 300, make sure you change that to 300. That's important because 300 DPI allows our image to be good for when printing. So be mindful that that DPI is set at 300. Now you see, because my iPad is an iPad Pro, I do get 112 layers with this one. If you are using a different iPad, you might get a slightly different amount of layers with yours. So once you've done that, 3000 by 3000 at 300 DPI, all you need to do is press create, and Procreate will just create that canvas for you. You can create the canvas size to however you like, and as a clip artist, I will say everyone is different. You might want to work in a bigger canvas size, but this is one that I personally use, as I find this is the best working size for me when I come to creating the type of clip art I am doing. When I'm working with digital papers, however, I will not use this size, but it's just more so for clip art. But if you feel like working in a bit of a different canvas size, that is okay too. It is very personal, but this is the best way I have found for myself personally. Okay, so once your canvas opens, you will notice at the very top right here you have some tools, at the very top left here you have some tools, and on the side you have two slide bars just here. So one thing you'll notice before we get to know these tools is the background here on this screen is dark. One thing that Procreate gives you is the option to be able to go from a dark interface and a light interface. And the reason I'm telling you this first, as the first thing to know, is because when I learned that you could go from a dark working space to a light working space, it really changed the game for the way I was able to work in Procreate. So first of all, before we get to know the tools, I'm going to show you very directly how to change this to a light interface, just in case you would prefer to work in it that way. However, this dark interface you see here is what comes default to Procreate. So to be able to change it to a light interface, all you need to do is go to the spanner up the very top left, and you'll see that it comes down with a whole menu panel. So what you want is to go to preferences, which we are on here now, and then the very first one which says light interface, to switch that on. And you'll notice here now that we've gone from a dark interface now to a light interface. This is my personal preference for working in as a clip artist. However, if you prefer the dark, that's okay too, but I really wanted to let you know that first, and just so you know, you can work in between dark and light. If you prefer it dark, just go back to the spanner, preferences, and then turn that off, and you'll have the dark workspace or interface there for you. So again, turn it on, you get the light, turn it off, get the dark. That's the first thing I'm going to teach you. So because I do enjoy the light interface, I am going to turn it on to light and leave it on that for now. So what we're going to do now is get to know the tools that Procreate gives you. So we're not going to go through every single tool today, but I am going to break down the basics for you. So let me just explain. This right hand side these are all your working tools, all the creative tools that you need. And your left hand side here with the tools in the top left are more of your editing, adding, your additional menu type options. When you work in Procreate as a clip artist, you're going to be using tools majority of the time from the right hand side. So you'll see here, first of all, I'm just going to go get my Apple Pencil. Okay, so to get to know your tools, first things first, let's have a look at this right hand side. So the first image that you have here is the paintbrush. If we click on the paintbrush, you'll be brought down to a drop down menu, and this menu gives you all the different creative and fun brushes that you get to experience, get to play with, and get to use. So the brushes that you will see in your menu are all standard to Procreate if you are opening it for the very first time. And there are so many different options for you to choose from, and they are sectioned in their own category. Now, just in case you didn't know, brushes can also be bought. So if there is not a brush that you like out of what has been given to you as default brushes on Procreate, you can find brushes on places like Etsy, on Creative Fabrica, and a lot of different places online do sell brushes. Alternatively, you can actually edit brushes as well to create your own brushes, but that is more of an advanced technique that we're not going to go through in this video. But just so you know, if you're just so new to this is where you're going to find all the different drawing textures, brushes, and all the things that you can draw and create with. So next to the brush image is this little finger pointer, which is known as the smudge tool. This, if you can just imagine your finger smudging something, allows you to smudge the paint or smudge whatever you've got on screen by using this. I will show you this a little bit later on, but for now, this is not something that I use very often. It might be something that you would like to incorporate into your works, but it's not something that you need to know right away. Okay, so next door to the smudge tool, you have this long rectangular shape, which is actually your eraser. This will allow you to erase lines, erase colors, erase things on your workspace. Okay, so next to the eraser, you have these two black boxes. These are known as your layers. So if you click on that, you'll be brought to a drop-down menu, and you just see it says layers, and it just has layer 1. Now, basically, when you're creating artwork on Procreate, it gives you the option to work in layers. And layers, if you think of it, it's like pieces of paper stacked on top of each other. You can have more than just one layer, but it allows you to separate each individual image that you're drawing on from a different layer. So if I was to want to create an extra layer, all I'd have to do is press this addition sign, and you'll see that there's a layer on top. Add one more, and then we've got 3 layers. So if I was to draw something on layer 1, for example, and if I go back to the layers, you'll see that this love heart is only on layer 1. So layers are really helpful because it allows you to work on different things of your artwork or clip art without affecting the other layers. So for example, for layer 2, if I wanted to add another heart that went over the other heart here, you can see in the layers that they're on separate layers, so I could easily move them around without affecting the initial layer. So say if I didn't like the look of that, I could then decide, okay, this red heart needs to be moved, and I can do that because they're on separate layers, and I can just easily move it, clicking the arrow tool here, and then I could move that to anywhere I wanted without affecting this initial layer. So one thing about layers is you can work in between them, you can duplicate them, you can do lots of different things with layers that are so helpful in order to create your own clip art. And I use layers quite a lot, and I always make sure that different things and different parts of my clip art are selected and created and done with different layers, because it makes it a lot more easier to edit and customize your artwork or clip art. And it's just really important to learn how these layers actually work so that you can work more efficiently, so you can work in a way that's going to serve you better. So they are your layers, and if you think of it as in paper, whatever you draw on layer 1 will not be affected by whatever you draw on layer 2 or layer 3. So you can have 3 different images on each of these layers, and they're not going to be affected by one another. So that's kind of something to think about if you're trying to wrap your head around how layers actually work. And so hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, but layers are something that are really important to be able to know about and learn about. The next part here is this little color circle. So this is also another important tool. This is your color panel. So you have this circular color wheel, and it allows you to drag and move your Apple Pencil or finger, whatever you're using, around to choose the color that you want. Now the outer circle allows you to choose the main color, and the inner circle allows you to choose the shade. So you might want something darker or lighter depending on what you are trying to create. But this inside circle works in combination to the outside circle. So you do have to use them together to get the right color that you're looking for. Now another thing you will see, if you look at the very bottom here, you'll see that this is the disc. So this here is what is called the disc. If you go to classic, it will give you another way of sourcing your colors, and you can just easily move it that way. This is one way you can also choose your colors, and you can go up and down here, move these sliders to however you want if you're not wanting to just move it around on the screen here. Another option here is what's called harmony, and if you go to the top hand corner, you'll see a little drop down menu to the side here, which allows you to choose certain types of colors. So this is more advanced, but if you are looking at ways to choose your colors to complement each other, they give you this option to choose from complementary, split complementary, analogous, and tetratic. So you can choose what's going to look best for your colors by moving this color wheel, and it gives you that on the color wheel to see what is going to be best. And so what that allows you to do, it allows you to move it around, and you get 3 different colors in these circular bubbles that you can choose from that are going to work well with one another. So that's something that is a good thing to know about in the harmony section of the color palette. Value, of course, I'm not going to go too in depth with this one. This one you can choose from here, but what is important about this one is if you have a particular hexadecimal code, like you know the color that you want to use, you can actually type it in here. If you just touch it, and you can type the color that you want. There are plenty of color palettes and hex codes that you can find online, and if you just type in the code, you will be able to get the exact color that you're looking for. And then lastly, if you go to this bottom section here, this is your palettes. You may or may not have many or any in here at the moment. I've obviously got quite a few from over the years having Procreate. And you can also actually purchase color palettes from places like Etsy, Creative Fabrica, and online marketplaces. However, you can easily make your own by clicking the addition symbol up here. You'll be brought to a drop-down menu, and this is something really good to know because you can create a new palette and choose your own. You can actually get a color palette from your camera, from a photo that you've taken or a photo that you're going to take. You can get one from a file, or you can get one from your photos. So these are really important to know about. For the most part, if you're just wanting to customize your own palette, all you need to do is click the create new palette, and it will bring you up with this blank grey grid. And to rename it, all you have to do is click on the text and then rename it. Let's just do summer. From there, you can go and choose whatever colors that you like from whatever part of the color palette panel option that you like, and you can add it to your color palette just like that by just clicking on the color that you want, making sure it's featured in the top right circle here, and then just clicking on the little grey box. Now, one thing to know is if you are creating your own color palette and you don't like a certain color that you've done, if you just hold it down, you'll be able to delete that color off your palette, so you don't have to start brand new. So that's just something helpful to know when you are creating your clip art, to have these custom palettes, or you can buy a palette, or you can also import a palette from a photo. So that's just something really fun to know. So now you know these main tools in the right hand corner, we're just going to briefly look at these left hand corner tools as well. So in the left hand corner, of course, if you want to go back out of this workspace, you just have to click gallery, and it will bring you back to your home screen, or this is where all your works of art, clip art, whatever you're doing on Procreate will be. And obviously to just get back into it, you just have to click it once and it will open up into the workspace. Now next door to the gallery, you have this spanner bar. This is where a lot of the different kind of controls and menu options are here to customize on the Procreate program. So you'll have things, if you go to, for example, the spanner under add, this little add button here, you'll see that you have options like insert a file, insert a photo, take a photo, and add text. This is where I really wanted to highlight. If you are wanting to add text to your artwork or to your workspace, all you need to do is click add text. It will bring you up to there. You'll have this little bubble down here, and if you click on this little keyboard here, if you're using an iPad, then you can be able to bring that up and type in what you want. And to be able to edit it, you just have to double tap that and this little bar will come up. Otherwise you can click on this one here, which will bring you up to a bigger screen like this that will show you your fonts, the style that you're using, the size. You can make it bigger, smaller, whatever you like. And then you can, of course, align it, have it underlined, have it just the outline of it. There's so many different things you can actually do with the actual text. And one cool thing too is if you do have fonts that you like, that you've purchased, or that you want a particular font, you can actually import fonts from places like Creative Fabrica or wherever you've bought your fonts online. So for example, if you're wanting to use a particular font for your branding or a particular commercial use font, then you can actually import it by clicking here, import font, just in this right hand corner, and importing that into Procreate, and then it will be able to come up into this little section here. So just for now, I'm just going to have it at that. And you can of course move things around. When you have this like bounding box area, just means you can alter it, you can move it, you can make it smaller or bigger. And this little green circle just means you can turn it just like that. So you can do lots of things with it. It's pretty intuitive, so it is something that once you get used to, it feels natural when you're creating with it. But it's just finding out the things that you can do with it to begin with if you're just new to Procreate. So that is just one part of the spanner that is important for beginners, just to know how to add text. Now in this section you can also insert a photo. This is an amazing thing that Procreate allows. If you're needing something as a reference image or something to be able to help you create something, then inserting a photo from your album will allow you to do that. And so that's something to just keep in mind if you wanted to insert something into Procreate. And there are a few other little things I'm not going to go over in this video today that are important in this little section, but that's just the main ones to know out of this spanner, is how to add text and how to add a photo. Okay, so next to the spanner you have this magic wand. Now this magic wand is a special tool that I do want to highlight for beginners, because this can allow you to work smarter and not harder at times. So with these adjustments you can do so many different cool techniques, but the main thing that I really want to point out here is the hue, saturation and brightness. It allows you to change that with these sliders to change up your image very quickly. So if you can see here down the bottom, it allows you to move things side to side and allows you to change the color super quickly to kind of get a feel of what color is going to be best for your project. It also alters brightness. This is also important to know for Clipartists, because when you are transitioning from line work and you want to go into a black and white version, this is a really good thing to know about, as it allows you to just make the lines black within only a few seconds, and it saves you a lot of time when you're doing the outline of a clip art set. And for particular platforms such as Teachers Pay Teachers, for example, when you are doing line work, they do like for the clip artist to provide a black and white version. Having a black and white version is very sought after, and it's important to be able to have when you can have it as a possibility or an option in your clip art packs. Next up we have this little S, which is actually a little ribbon, and this ribbon allows you to do a lot of different things, but I will just show you first. If you're wanting to move a particular item in your artwork, if you first of all make sure that you're on the right setting, click on freehand, you'll be able to see you can draw or select something freehand, And if we click on this, which is the tool next door, the arrow, it will allow you to then move that image wherever you want. So that is something to know that is really helpful. And you can obviously rescale it, make it bigger or smaller, turn it around, do whatever you like with that. But these two kind of work in combination with each other. So it's important to know that there are lots of different things that you can do with Procreate, but you can select something that you need moving, making sure it's on a separate layer so you can move it easily without affecting any of the other layers. Okay, so now you know the basis of each of these basic tools. What I'm going to show you now is the colouring in process and also some copying, pasting images, as well as learning about some quick shapes and lines, a bit about brushes, canvas cropping and exporting. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of understanding of the tools, I'm just going to show you some basic features of Procreate that you will need if you're going to be using this from day to day in your work as a clip artist. For starters, if you are wanting to alter your workspace to make it easier for you to work with, all you need to do is you can kind of grab two fingers and go in between. You can make the canvas quite small, you can zoom up just by using two fingers, moving them together or moving them outwards at the same time. So that allows you to do that. Of course, you can turn it as well. You can turn it all the way, so it really gives you that flexibility to work in whatever way that you like. Now, if you are not happy with something that you've got on your page, you can delete it in a few different ways. So first of all, there's the layer delete. So for example, if you didn't want this black love heart, and you didn't want to just erase it out and take your time doing that, all you needed to do is swipe left on the whole layer and click delete. It is then gone out of your layers panel. It is not there anymore. So if you decided, oh no, that wasn't the layer I wanted to delete, you could go back by clicking two fingers down and it will allow that to come back. Now if you wanted to redo that and get rid of it again, you have to use three fingers. So two fingers tap to undo, like Control Z, and three finger tap to redo. And so we've got rid of that. Otherwise, if you are just wanting to get rid of a certain little section, just making sure that you are on the right layer. So I'm on layer 1, making sure that is where my love heart is. I would click on the eraser and I would make sure that this here was at a big enough size. So this basically makes your eraser smaller and bigger. So towards the top is going to make it bigger for erasing, and then towards, if I move that down, it's going to make it smaller, and you'll see that in the stroke. So towards the top, it makes it a lot bigger. So let's just say I wanted to get rid of half of this love heart. Then I could just do that. So if I decided that actually no, I want my love heart back, or wanted my artwork back, two finger tap, two finger tap, two finger tap, until I get back to where I want it to be. So really that two finger tap is like Control Z on a computer. So when you're looking at the side panels here, this top bar basically is size. So how small or big a brush is, and this bottom one is transparency. So how opaque or how transparent, you'll see it in the little visual here, that you want your brush to be. So the more you go towards the bottom on this bottom slider, the more transparent, so see-through basically, it's going to be. And the higher that you go up with that is going to be how opaque that's going to be. So you're not going to be able to see through that at 100. So that is something that you can alter and adjust from using different brushes and seeing kind of what works for you. And that's just something to keep in mind, and that is something that I do use from time to time that helps with my workflow depending what I'm trying to create. Now colouring in, let's talk about colouring in. So let me just clear the page. Okay, so for colouring in, say if I wanted to create this background a different colour, all I would need to do is a colour drop, pretty simple and easy. For example, I wanted my background to be blue. I've got the colour I want in the top right hand corner, this baby blue colour. So if I drag it, holding onto it with my Apple Pencil, you'll see this little blue circle come up. I have to keep holding it and then drop it into the actual canvas, and you'll see it will fill the whole page. Now if I didn't want to have the whole page blue, but I wanted just to have a circle or something blue on my page, of course I'll just go back. First of all, I like to add an extra layer, And let's say I'm going to want a blue circle on my page. So first of all, I'm going to draw the blue circle that I want. Now this is a tip too to know. I could draw it like that and have it very, very wonky. Now that is not the kind of circle that I want. So I want a nice circle shape that's going to be round. It's very hard to get an exact circle just by drawing it yourself. So to be able to get an exact circle, just go to finger tap to go back. What I'm going to do is actually draw the circle first, but keep holding onto it. So I'll show you that, and I'll show you how that makes an exact circle. So if I draw this circle, I keep holding onto it. So I'm holding on to it now. It creates this kind of more seamless circle, but I can still see it's a little bit wonky. So what I'm going to do is with one finger, hold it down, and that's going to make an exact circle for me. And you'll see this has a little bit of text up here. It says circle, and I can go down, I can edit it, I can change it to an ellipse if I want to, or circle, and you have different options depending on the shape that you want to create. And so if I was going to fill this in, I could also do this with a color drop, just like we did before. The color that I want, making sure it's on the same layer, and just filling that in as a color drop. There's my beautiful blue circle. But if I wanted, however, for it to have a black outline, instead of trying to go around and do the long way, trying to recreate this and trace around it and do what I just did to create it, that's one way you could do it. So when I first started learning Procreate, and when I tried to color things in, because I didn't know how to do it, I would spend ages trying to do this, just trying to color in the whole circle, and that was just not time efficient, and frankly it was exhausting. So in order to find a different way to color this in, I obviously found the color drop thing, but then I realized if I wanted to have an outline on something, that couldn't be sustainable. So I learned about the reference technique. So I have got another video on my channel about how to use this a bit more in depth, but what I'm going to say here is if I wanted to have that same blue circle, but I wanted to have an outline on it, I'm going to use the reference technique. So I need 2 layers for this. So you can see I've got layer 3 and layer 2. Maybe to make it easier, I'm just going to rename them. And to rename a layer, all you do is click on the text, click up here, rename. Let's do layer 1, and then we've got layer 2. So I want a blue circle, but I want a black outline on it. So how could I do that? So what I'm going to do is I have the circle outline, that's the outline that I want, but I want it to be blue inside without affecting the layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually click on this layer, and you'll come up with a little drop down menu here. What I'm going to do then is going to go to a special little word called reference, and if you look down towards the little bottom, it has reference just under invert. If I click on reference, you'll notice that just here it says the word under the layer, it says reference. Basically what this allows you to do is use that drawing or that image or whatever you've created as the reference guide for your coloring in. So I'm going to now go down to my first layer that has nothing on it, and because the reference layer is already there, I'm going to be able to just drop the same blue into the circle on that first layer. But what I'm going to be able to do from that is then go to the second layer, go up to how I was saying that magic wand allows you to change things for your black and white outline, go into the first option, hue, saturation and brightness, and if I go into this brightness section, I can just go down and then I have a perfect outline for this circle. So that is just something to keep in mind. This is something that I found really helpful when I first started learning Procreate, because it just allowed me to work so much better when I figured out this reference technique. It just made it so much easier for coloring in and making things on Procreate. So I really use reference a lot these days, and it just makes it so much easier for your line work. And that's why I usually do my line work separate to my coloring in layers, because it makes it easier to readjust colors instead of having it affected by the whole layer. Okay, so another thing about the layers section that is really important to know is you can actually duplicate the layers, and the way that you do this, so say if I wanted 2 blue circles, first of all let's just make these 2 smaller. Now this is another important thing to know, because if I wanted to have these move, if I was to move one of the layers it wouldn't come with the outline. So it's important to know this because I want these now to move over to the top left hand corner and I want to make them smaller. So to be able to do that, I'm actually going to select both of them. So I have to slide right and you'll see that they both turn blue. This basically means I can now move them both together. And if I go to this arrow pointer, I can then move them down smaller, move them here, and they're still on separate layers. So if I wanted to move that away from that, I could, but they're still on separate layers, which is the most important thing that we need to know. Another thing about these layers is you can actually duplicate them. So the way that we do that, so say if I wanted the exact same circle but in a different color, the way I could do this is swipe left. You'll see it says either lock, duplicate, or delete. We're going to duplicate that, and then we're going to also duplicate the color layer. So duplicate by sliding left, clicking duplicate, and you can actually rearrange these layers too. So you want to make sure that when you're rearranging it, that the layers are sitting where you want things on top. You just have to be very mindful of what is underneath your layer, because the top layer, this layer up here, is going to be what's on the very top, and the layer down the bottom here is going to be what's on the very bottom. So you need to be careful when you're creating your artworks that you have the right things on top and the right things on the bottom underneath. So now you can see that I've got these two duplicated, but you can't see where they are because they're hiding underneath the initial layer. So to be able to select them both, we're just going to slide to the right and you'll see that they're both now selected, and I can go to my arrow pointer and then just move them out the way. I've got two blue circles now, but maybe I wanted to have a different colored circle. So on that layer, I'm going to then change it to orange. And so on that layer, so you just make sure that you know which layer you're on. So it's on this one here, on that layer. So I'm just going to quickly rename so it's not confusing. So this is layer 3 and layer 4. It's good to keep in the practice of renaming your layers so you know what layers you're working on. But so for layer 3, I want to be able to color that in orange, but looking at it there, sometimes it can get a bit confusing. So if you want to make sure that you're on the right layer, these little black boxes allow you to see the visibility of where it is. So if I click this little box here, it'll show me that one down there is actually the layer that I'm working on, or this color one here. So for me to change this one, which is on layer 3, to an orange one, I'm just going to drag and drop that into there, and you'll see that's just easily changed like that. So now I have in my layers panel all of these on separate layers, but I have been able to create two circles in two different colors that are exactly the same. Okay, now another thing is if you are wanting to copy and paste something in particular, of course I showed you how to duplicate, which is slide left and click duplicate. But if there was something that you wanted to copy from one layer and put on a different layer, there is also a way to do that. So for example, if I had a love heart, let's draw a love heart on layer 3 on the same layer that this orange one is. So say if I had this love heart on layer 3, and I decided actually I don't want it on layer 3, I actually want it on layer 1. What I could do then is go to the ribbon, I could select it, I could use my arrow then to grab the image, and then using a 3-finger swipe, I could go down, and what I could do is cut and paste. So it doesn't look like anything's changed on the screen because it really hasn't, but what's happened is in the layers panel, you'll see that it's moved from being on the layer panel with the orange to being now from a cut and paste onto a different layer. And you can see that's done from selection. So say if I wanted to move this pink heart now down to layer 1, what I could do that's going to be under layer 1 now is I could then combine them on the same layer by using 2 fingers and then just pinching them together. And you'll see now it just went from having them on separate layers to then having them on the same layer just now. So if I show you that again, so if I go back, you'll see that they just went on their separate layers there. Just a 2-finger pinch to have them put onto the same layer, just like that, a little pinch just together, and you've got them on the same layer. So that's something also really important to note, how you can cut and paste something onto a different layer. And so now we're going to talk about quick shapes. There are some little hacks, I suppose you could say, when it comes to drawing here on Procreate. Now I am going to just get rid of all of these. These are not deleted. If I wanted to see them back up, I would just press that. I'm just taking the visibility off these for a moment. And I'm going to add another layer, and I'll call that layer, oh, it's already layer 5, so that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some quick shapes. If you're wanting to create something really quickly with shapes, without drawing, I'm going to show you how to do that too. So first of all, let's choose a different color. Going to use maybe a dark medium blue, choosing that, and now I'm going to go to the ribbon. And so what you'll notice here is you have this option of automatic, freehand, rectangle, and ellipse. Now when you're doing quick shapes, if you want a really quick rectangle, you can just click rectangle and then make sure that when you're drawing it's on color fill, and you'll see that here. But you want to make sure that this is on so that you can get an exact rectangle for yourself. So let's change another color, maybe an orange, grab a new layer, and let's do the same thing. So we've got this ribbon, do another rectangle here, making sure that it is on color fill, and you'll see that it just goes into a nice color fill straight away. So that is something pretty cool to know, that you can do that. And of course, like you would have seen, you can also do a circle. Let's do a yellow. So if we go back up there and change it not to rectangle but to ellipse, which you can make it look like an ellipse, otherwise you can do more of a circular shape. And you can see that I've made a shape. I can just use my arrow pointer to move it around to however I like. So this might be helpful for if you're designing a logo or just wanting to create things with solid shapes. That is something good to know about when you are using Procreate as a beginner. And so with that, I'm going to take away these shapes, add a new layer. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some line work. Now the brush that I usually like to use line work for my clip art is called the monoline brush. Now it is up here, and I have edited versions of it that I use. However, we'll just use this standard one because this is the one you have as a preset on yours. But you can kind of see this is what the brush looks like. This is a good outlining brush, I find, for clip art. It's nice and smooth, it looks clean, and it's pretty crisp for the most part. Now, there are so many different brushes that you can play around and choose with and alter. If you are, however, wanting to edit a brush, this is not something I'm going to go into major detail, but I do want you to know if you are a beginner, because you might in the future want to get a bit more advanced. If you like a certain brush and you want to edit it, all you have to do is duplicate the brush first. So slide to the left, duplicate it, and then if you double click it, you will be brought to Brush Studio, which will allow you with these little drop down menus to be able to change your brush in a way that you like. So just go cancel for now, we don't need that one, but that's just something a bit more advanced. Delete that brush. But it's something to keep in mind and to know about as a beginner, that there are options to alter brushes in the future if you're just still learning. And so with your lines, there are so many different types of brushes that you can use that produce different styles and different types of lines. See, this one's a bit more artistic, a little bit more rugged. And so you can see it's got a bit more texture to it compared to the smooth monoline brush. So that is something to keep in mind, that each brush has their own features and has their own particular look. So it's just really about trial and error, having a play. Some brushes are bigger, some brushes are smaller, some are actually more patterns. You can kind of see with this one, we've got like a grid pattern happening here. If I make it a bit bigger, you'll see the grid gets a bit bigger. So you can really get creative with this and create digital papers that are really fun. And it's just really about finding kind of what works for you and what brushes that you like. Every clip artist is going to be different. I personally like the monoline brush that I've edited for my outlining, and then for sketching I personally like the 6B pencil, which I'll show you. This 6B pencil I find to be quite a nice sketching type of brush, and so it's just got a bit of nice texture. It's nice and easy on the hand, and it's kind of a little bit scratchy, which I like. And so yeah, you can kind of like do your little initial sketch and then add on top for your outlining and calligraphy. You can use your monoline brush, and you can kind of go over that and then create your artwork from there. And of course then you take away the sketch layer and then you've got your artwork sort of there. So that's just something that I like to do when I'm sketching. I usually use a 6B and then I go in outline with the monoline, just for reference, for anyone that's wondering. The last two things I'm going to teach you is how to crop your canvas and how to export your files. So for cropping your canvas, let's just quickly create another love heart. Really, we'll color drop that one. And then what I'm going to say is, you can see how there is this solid white background here. If I'm wanting to create it into Clipart that is going to be able to be layered, I don't want this white background. So to be able to take away this background, you'll see at the very bottom of your layers, you actually have what's called background color. So I have to click that off, and that will allow a transparent background. So it doesn't have that white layer in the background, which is not going to be helpful if you're wanting to layer this in a project. So we need to take that off. So you can see now that you can just see the background. So this means it's going to now be transparent in this little area. But you can see there's quite a lot of white space, or quite a lot of empty space I should say, around the actual Clipart image. So for best practice, it is best to actually crop this down so that when the user is using the Clipart, there's not all this extra space that they have to crop down themselves. And so when they're clicking on it in programs such as PowerPoint or wherever the customer is using their Clipart in, it's nice and snapped and to the point, so you're not having all this extra space. So to be able to get rid of all this extra space, we need to go into the spanner, we need to go into canvas, and you'll see the very first option says crop and resize. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually first of all go to settings and go into snapping, and you should see it snapped to the most closest pixel on the page. And so you want to snap it to the side. So majority of the time I will do it in this way, and then for you to be able to keep it snapped like that, just click done, and you'll see that all the blank space is away as best as it can be. Other times, however, I will just do it manually depending on what the image is. So if I just go back and I'll show you again, we've got spanner, crop and resize. If I didn't want to do it through the snapping setting, I could turn that off and I could just manually adjust it to the best of my ability to get it to where I want to. So majority of the time I'll use snapping because it's more accurate with snapping to the closest pixel. But other times, it depends on the actual image that I'm using. I like to have a little bit extra space under a certain area, so I like to just manually adjust it. Just make sure when you're doing that you don't accidentally crop off anything, and click done, and then you'll see that's how it will look as well. So they're the main things that you really need to know that is possible on Procreate. There are lots more things that you can learn from it. This is just touching the surface, but I do want to show you guys how to then export this now so you can send it over to your computer. So hopefully you have an Apple device such as a laptop or a Mac that you can export your images to through AirDrop, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So to be able to export it, we're just going to go back to gallery. And so I've created my Clipart, and now I've decided, okay, I want to use this in a PowerPoint presentation on my computer. So the way we're going to do this is we're just going to click select what we want to send off to the computer. If I've got lots of images, sometimes I will not select them all and just do little by little depending on the computer. Other times I will select them all and just send them through and it works fine, but just depends on the computer and how things kind of go from time to time, at least with my computer I have found that. So once you've selected the image that you want, in the top right here you'll have what's called share. You want to share that. Now if you want to have that transparent background, you want to make sure it's as a PNG, which is what is going to create your clip art. It will say exporting, and then we're going to just send it through AirDrop. Click on AirDrop, choose a device, it will send, and you'll hear that little didn't, and it will come on to your computer. And so that will go to your computer, and then you can use that in your program once you've saved it into a file or whatever, or you can package it up so you can create your own clip art set to sell. So that is some of the things that, as a newbie, it's good to know. Those are the things that you can do with Procreate. It does take time. It is a learning curve. It does take a lot of practice, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes easier and easier. My best advice is to practice. Have a look at this video for reference if you need it again. Otherwise, just whatever you've learned from this video today, practice it and have a go with using those little functions and seeing how you can create something for yourself. There's so many things I could talk about with Procreate, and there's so much to learn on Procreate. So maybe in the future I will do some more focusing on one particular skill or one particular thing that I have taught in this video today. If there is something that you kind of want to know or want to learn Procreate, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will for sure give it a read and see if I can help out with creating a video to assist with that. Or if there's anything that you didn't quite get from this video that maybe I can try and re-explain in another video. But this is the basics of what you need to know of how to operate Procreate, how to use Procreate, and some of the tools and features that Procreate offers. Again, it's a program that does require a learning curve, so I definitely suggest, if you're picking this up for the first time or you're a newbie, to just have a play with the brushes, have a play with making circles, make really basic things, and then try and go into some more of the advanced techniques. But all the things that I've mentioned today will for sure help you in your clip art journey if you are using Procreate to be able to create clip art to sell online. In the future, I'll do some more Procreate videos showing you how to actually maybe create a set and how to do recoloring and stuff like that. But for now, that is this video. I hope you learned something from it, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch. I will see you in my talking head. Alrighties guys, I hope some of the information shared in this video was helpful to you, and hopefully you'll be able to try some of those little techniques for yourself when you're creating your clip art. It is so fun to be able to create clip art, and Procreate is such an amazing tool. Once you really get the hang of it, it becomes really fun and easy to do. And I personally love creating clip art, so I hope that you can start your journey, start creating things, and hopefully this video helped you with understanding what Procreate has to offer. And in the future, I'd love to do some more tutorials on Procreate, so stay tuned and feel free, if you're wanting to join me on this journey, to subscribe to the channel. And until then, I hope you give Procreate a good go. Give yourself a few weeks to months to really master and learn it. Alrighties, thanks for watching. Adios.